So I have always said that every country needs strict border controls in terms of who's coming in, etc. And Ireland, unfortunately, the government have let everybody in. And unfortunately, this is the results of it because we have now a danger, and it says it here in black and white here, that there is an extreme concern among the intelligence community here and the defence forces on Garda Síochána of an Islamic terrorist attack on the island of Ireland, or even that Ireland is being used as a base. And as we know, we have reports from the last few years about ISIS, and I know ISIS using the Wicklow Mountains for training. And of course, the Gardaí didn't want to know anything about it because, again, the simple fact of the matter is they're too afraid to be called racist. And the same with the Defence Force, they're too afraid to investigate this or to do anything about it or to even look into it. There was never anything looked into. There was reports of it, and the Gardaí didn't want to know about it because they were afraid of being called racist. And we have to stop that because Ireland's national security comes before any name calling, and that's the simple. Ireland's sovereignty and independence comes before anything, and we're going to prevent any terrorism, especially Islamic foreign ideologies coming into the Irish state. We do everything to stop it, and we do everything to not let it happen on the island of Ireland, and to keep our citizens safe, as we should. But unfortunately, the government doesn't see it like that. But in black and white here it says there's a significant cause of a concern according to the security review that the Islamic terrorism, along with dissident Republican activity, of course, and of course the far-right extremists, but mainly Islamic terrorism, as we've seen in Galway, and the highlight the incident in Galway just 2 years ago, where an Irish fellow who was radicalised by ISIS, inspired by ISIS, went off and tried to kill an army chaplain. Like, that's what he tried to do. Now, thankfully the army chaplain covered, etc., and forgive the man. Like, I just want to acknowledge that too. That was a queer act of forgiveness too. But of course, this was a young Irish lad that was radicalised online by ISIS to commit this terrorist act against the Irish people and the Irish nation. But hopefully he is a few years in juvenile detention because he's a juvenile. So hopefully when he comes out in a few years' time, he'll be a better person. Hopefully, we hope for that. But we also have a terrorist who tried to stab two members of Garda Síochána and tried to set fire to Conor McGregor's pub. And said he was inspired by ISIS and inspired by Islamic State and all that. Now, obviously, this has no place in Ireland, and especially this fellow. He committed an act of terrorism on the island of Ireland. And this should be dealt with very severely. You should really be dealt with. And I really would say we have to consider if the Irish state deems, and again this is what they're looking at this on the independent review, that it says it's very severe. Like, it's very severe, and they say it particularly, and the Pacific Rim, and I've said this many times, that the same with the ISIS training camp, if that's true, because it never was looked into, never was acknowledged, but there's been many times people have said about it, and you think the Gardaí and the Defence Forces would look into it and see, is it a reality? Because it is a lot of ground in the Wicklow Mountains, etc. And the fact that it never was really looked into, I've never seen any evidence of it, but there's never been anything looked into. There's never been a Garda document I have seen, or a defence document saying, yeah, we have looked into it, looked every inch of the Wicklow Mountains, there's nobody to be found. But there never was, and I don't know if that was legitimate, it could be. But it's the simple the fact of the matter is it could happen, because the idea of it is that the Irish authorities are too afraid to be called racist and far-right and extremist. For you're saying, where's your passport? Show me your identification. Tell me who you are, before we let you into the country. Very simple things, again, but in this country it's deemed extremism. If you ask somebody, who are you? Why are you coming here? What's your business? But because that's what I'm saying, and there's a simple thing like that. If we had simple border controls and very strict regulations, or looking into the backgrounds of these people, if they're coming from countries like, for example, in the Middle East, etc., and we have concerns about them. If there's anything that concerns us at all, we'll not let you in. Because the safety of Irish people should be the top priority. The safety of the people of Ireland is the top priority. But I also agree with the report that, and I've said this before, it's lone wolves too, in a lot of cases, too, people that's been radicalised online. That carries out themselves, as we've seen the army chaplain attack, and even with the attack of a reference there about the two Gardaí in Dublin and on Conor McGregor's pub, it was pretty much, as far as we know, it was done by one individual. It wasn't like there was a group co-conspirators, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. But it's more likely to be a lone wolf attack, because obviously a group of people are more likely to raise an alarm bells. But in this country, again, the whole system is just afraid to be called racist and extremist. But it's very significant, as they say, it's very significant. But particularly, and as I said there, about it being used, Ireland being used as a base to attack, God forbid, the United Kingdom or Norway or Sweden or Denmark or France or the Netherlands or Belgium, Iceland. They're saying that it could be launched from the Irish state, basically their attack and their plans, etc. And of course we need to squash that. We need to squash it by force. And as I said there, I was going to say earlier on, if one of these people are found to be Islamic terrorism or any kind of terrorist relation group outside the state, and if they're in Ireland and planning an attack on the Irish people, the Irish nation, I really would say if the Irish government deemed this a legitimate threat to the state and to the Irish people, the death penalty should be brought back straight away to deal with them. And as simple as that, if you have any ideology like this and want to commit an act of terrorism against the Irish people, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer, and you won't be terrorising anybody else. And that's a simple thing. That's the only way to get through to these people. It's tough. It's being very tough for these people, because these people don't care for life. These people don't care for anybody. They will happily kill people if they wanted to. Simple as that. And it says about right wing extremism, yada 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 yada. But at the end of the day, I don't think Irish nationalists and stuff is going to start attacking their own country. I don't think that's going to happen. And then of course it says about extreme left, etc. But of course the ideologies and stuff, people are getting very, very upset and annoyed about many things in the state, particularly the situation in the Irish state and across the world too. And understandably, it's a very upsetting issue, but we do have to look into this now, specifically because it mentions about Islamic terrorism, particularly. That's what the Irish state deems that that's the biggest security risk to the state. Of course, there's others, of course, but I am very concerned by this because I've looked at the whole report, and it makes sense. It's not like they're not lying here, because it is making sense, because they're saying lone wolves, etc., and people coming in. Because they're saying it's coming into the country, people coming in, they're coming in, and the base, as they say here, Ireland could be used as a base to attack other countries, and that means there's a group of people co-conspiring, that the Irish state deems that they could be doing this could be happening in the Irish state, that they're all in a group talking about where they could attack and what they could do. It's very, very concerning. And the fact that we had two in the last few years is very concerning too. But as I said, the only how to get through to these people is the death penalty. And suppose that if they're deemed to have evidence, if we have evidence that they're going to commit an act of terrorism or do commit an act of terrorism, there's no ifs, there's no buts. You're getting that, and suppose that, because that's the only way to fight this kind of stuff. Is that because this is really concerning. And I want to just briefly mention, this is just something that happened in the past, but to do with the Manchester attack, the Ariana Grande concert. I'm sure we remember there was a fellow that blew himself up. He was in Ireland for a period. He was particularly in Cavan for a while. Now it's staying on the system that this person never came to the attention of the Irish authorities. That he was in Cavan, he lived in Cavan for a few months, and even he was in Ireland for a few months, and there never was anything red flags given about him. Unfortunately, if there was red flags, that we could have stopped him before he done what he did. But I'm just saying that our system is too weak, and our system is too afraid to be called racist and stuff, and that's the simple that. And it's the simple truth. And we have to be tough, because we can't negotiate with terrorism. We can't negotiate with the safety of our people, the safety of our children, and of the nation of Ireland. We can't negotiate with that. We're not negotiating. It's not a negotiation. The Irish people come first. The Irish the Irish Republic come first. State safety and the welfare comes first, and we won't let anybody from outside the state commit an act against the Irish people, regardless. And the Irish people won't allow it. Whatever about the government, but the Irish people won't allow the government to allow them off with it. Simple as that. But I'm very, very concerned. I am really, really concerned about this. Because I read the whole report, and I do recommend people to have a look at the report too, because it is very stark, particularly when especially when it's saying in the top right that this is, pretty much, like, just looking at it last time there, it pretty much says it's very bound to happen. It's very high possibility. Like, it's pretty much, it could happen at any stage. And and I don't mean to say that people hide underneath your couches and stuff, no. But I'm just telling you that it is very high. That's what they deem it as, very, very high risk of this. It's a significant cause of concern. So it would be classified as high risk, or very high risk. That it could be an imminent threat to the Irish people and the Irish state. And that's what's very concerning, because these are people in the defence forces, and the security forces, etc., that they're saying this. It's not just me that's saying it. These are people that know what they're talking about, the years in the business. They know exactly what they're dealing with, and they are saying it. They are saying it. But we do need to kind of be more mindful in this country about the danger of terrorism, particularly car ramming attacks, etc. But it's unfortunate that we have to. But as I say, we have to have strong borders. We have to have strong regulations to prevent this from happening in Ireland. And of course, background checks and anything out of the ordinary. I just say to people too, if you see anything out of the ordinary, groups of people meeting in the mountains or anything, I would say to bring it to the attention of Garda Síochána as soon as possible to Defence Forces. Because it is worrying. It is worrying. And I do think people have to be mindful that unfortunately the modern world anything can happen. And that's the sad reality. But let me know what you think. It's very concerning. It is really, really concerning. I can't emphasise how concerned I am about it because it's something that I've been banging on about for the last 7 or 8 years and nobody's listened. And unfortunately, it's the reality. We're in the reality now. Beforehand, you were saying this could happen to Ireland, and unfortunately, it has. It probably will, and but hopefully we can try and prevent it. Hopefully we'll do something to prevent it some way. We can't prevent everything, but we can try. Thank you.